the very marvellous international superstars G&T. And we're very pleased to welcome Mike back to the stage. We haven't seen him for a little while, and it's great to have him here. And he does a spoken word. So what I would suggest is pin back your logos, and spoken word always needs that little bit more nuance. So we like to sort of say it's a pub, you want to have a chat, but spoken word needs that little bit more listening. So please pin back your logos, make yourselves comfortable, have a listen to Mike. We really enjoyed his last little set, so I'm sure this one's going to be great as well. Enjoy.
Family holidays in Australia. I grew up in Australia in the 1960s and 70s. I could have lied about that, so like 70s or 80s or something. Distances are so vast, there's a lot of driving to go anywhere, but there were beautiful places within a few hours or less. The Blue Mountains were a frequent winner, and we could even be a day trip. I can remember a primary school day trip which included walks in the beautiful eucalyptus bushland, spectacular viewpoints and visits to the limestone caves. I still remember the guide describing, to my bemusement as an 11-year-old, how to remember the names of the stalag formations. The tights go down and the mites go up. I had to ask Elizabeth Brooks what it meant. She knew. On one of our family expeditions in our Ford Falcon to the Kosciuszko mountain range, which was much further afield, we had an incident. On a gravel road, we had a head-on collision with a couple in a Morris 1100. Luckily, we were only shaken, nobody hurt, and we managed to tow the disabled Morris to the nearest settlement, Wee Jasper, where they could get help. In the loosest sense of the words, there was a campsite at Wee Jasper where my father Jim erected our canvas tent, swallowing a number of flies in the process. Yes, this was sheep farming land, and before the introduction of dung beetles, flies multiplied in their billions in the sheep dung. Wee Jasper had a lot going for it. There was a shop, the campsite, of course. It was in the mountains, so a little cooler, and there were walks, and a crystal clear, pebble-lined mountain river with delicious bathing pools. Apart from the flies, it was idyllic, and it gave Jim, my father, further time to bodge the broken radiator of the Ford Falcon, lacerating his hands on the sharp metal in the process, in the hope that the car would get us back the hundreds of miles to Cogra, near Sydney. We had a lovely couple of days at Wee Jasper, having barbecues, swimming in the river, exploring and sleeping in the tent. We returned a couple of years later. The shop campsite was still there, but sadly the clear mountain river was now a lake, part of a hydroelectric scheme. Australia is a place of extremes, and that included the weather. There's so much glorious sunshine that you take it for granted, but when it rains, you need to be prepared. I can remember Jim setting up the canvas tent in a Blue Mountains campsite, and always equipped with a spade, digging a huge trench around the tent to keep the surface water out in the case of an unexpected downpour. On this occasion, it wasn't sufficient. 3 a.m. he was out there getting soaked in a thunderstorm with the spade reinforcing defences. Luckily, we were on our army-style camp beds, desperately piling our belongings onto the beds to keep them out of the water running through the tent. I was an only child, and frequently we took a friend with us on holiday. There was a holiday to Port Macquarie, up the coast from Sydney. where my mother, Frida, booked a static caravan. It was a smart move. It rained and it rained. The four of us marooned for a couple of days while it rained. There was nothing you could do but wait for it to stop. For entertainment, my father Jim tried to invent new types of sandwiches. The most bizarre but successful, we agreed, was the orange sandwich. White sliced bread, butter, and segments of orange in between the slices. Port Macquarie, I remember seeing a commercial fishing boat unloading the most amazing load of glistening tuna. However, all our family fishing ventures were consistently disappointing. It was rare for us to catch anything we could eat from the bountiful natural New South Wales coastline. There was a story of when Frida and Jim, my parents, had a go at fishing soon after they arrived in Australia. They caught this big, ugly, multicoloured monster from some rocks, obviously poisonous. They chucked it back, much to the onlookers' amazement. The leather jacket is superb eating. The golf club. I grew up at 4 Lillypilly Avenue, Cogra, about 10 miles south of Sydney, in the suburban belt developed post-Second World War. There were plenty of amenities: shopping centres, schools, parks and beaches. Mascot Airport was close by and I used to cycle there to watch the planes taking off and landing. Beverley Park Golf Club was a short walk away, but my dad Jim always drove. It was a male-orientated club, but there was a women's section, and my mum Frida did play, but as her main job was looking after Jim and me, she didn't spend too much time on golf. Jim, on the other hand, was very keen, and he did a lot of practicing and tournaments, and joined in with socialising after the games. He loved it. Sadly, I was clearly not the boy wonder with golf clubs that he hoped I might be. I remember when I was very young helping him collect his golf balls on the practice area and riding on the back of the golf buggy when he walked back to the teeing off area. I think that time spent at the golf club might have got a bit excessive at one time, because unusually my mum Frida closed the wrought iron gates to the drive. This was never the case. Jim came back from the clubhouse in the dark one evening and drove straight through the closed gates. Practicing his swing at home was also possible with the aid of a golf practice net secured to the frame in front of the garage door. Here Jim could practice his biggest tee shots. Then one day the impossible happened. It was a 1 in a million shot. The ball found a hole in the net, ricocheted off the garage door, the wall, the neighbour's wall, and straight through my goldfish aquarium. Sorry, I'm laughing. Safely located in a shady part of the garden. The fish were saved and rehomed, but the aquarium had to go to the dump. No, actually, Jim repaired it, but that's another story. And that's it.
Enjoyed that. Cheers. Enjoyed that. Great stuff from Mike. Okay, I think we got a bit more Harry.